Hi, welcome to Movie Review Mom. I'm the mom and I review the movies. And my goal is to give you the heads up on filmmaking quality and content so that you can make the best decision for yourself and your family as to whether or not you want to watch a specific movie. You can also read my written reviews at moviereviewmom.com and follow me on Instagram as Movie Review Mom and Trina Boice, which is my name, and join our Facebook group called Movie Review Mom. All right, let's get to it. The movie I'm reviewing today is called Awake. This movie is not to be confused with the 2019 movie also called Awake. This dramatic thriller is now available on Netflix. It's rated R and is an hour and 36 minutes. So in a nutshell, after a devastating and mysterious global event wipes out all electronics and eliminates people's ability to sleep, a former female soldier with a troubled past and trouble with drugs may have found a solution with her daughter. The film is written and directed by Mark Rasso with some writing help by Gregory Poirier, whose story the movie is based on. I practically become a zombie if I don't get enough sleep. So I can't even imagine trying to go several days without sleep like the characters in this movie do. It's a really interesting premise for an apocalyptic drama. Unfortunately, the audience reviews have been kind of terrible. And I didn't think that the movie was that bad, but I readily admit that it's not going to win any awards. There were plenty of things I really liked about the movie. So let me point those out right now, and then I'll tell you about some of the things I didn't like. First of all, I have been a fan of Gina Rodriguez ever since I first saw her in her popular TV series called Jane the Virgin. I don't know if you ever saw it, but it's hilarious. She's adorable and awesome. So since then, she has been pumping out quite a few action movies. So I thought she was very well prepared to provide the tension and the heft required for this apocalyptic drama. I love how fiercely protective she is with her children. And I don't believe she has any children. So that's just good acting right there. One of the main characters tells her teenage son in the movie, "Your mom's hardcore." And she needs to be to survive this movie. No spoilers. I'm not even saying she survives, but for anybody to survive this type of an apocalyptic event. I love how she actually starts looking more and more sleepy as the movie progresses. Now, obviously, they were filmed on different days, but she was able to slur her speech and start moving slower. I think more convincingly than any of the other actors really in the movie. Then next is Ariana Greenblatt. She is so adorable and one of the busiest young actresses in Hollywood today. In fact, the Hollywood Reporter put her on the one to watch list in 2019. I loved her in the Paramount Pictures movie called Love and Monsters. Did you see that movie? So fun, so fun. You have to add that to your watch list if you haven't seen it. And then she's also in the movie In the Heights, which just hit the big screen a couple of weeks ago, which is also a fun movie and is a musical. She plays the younger protagonist in the movie. Anyway, she's adorable. You might also recognize Shamir Anderson from the recently premiered Netflix thriller called Stowaway. I was going to do a movie review on that and I ran out of time. I don't know if you saw that one, but he was also in that film. The idea of people not being able to sleep, I thought was really interesting and how it affects, of course, their physical body, but also their mental acuity. And you definitely see that represented in the movie. So lesson learned, get a good night's sleep. There's a car crash scene towards the very beginning of the movie that I thought was very realistic and scary and just let you know, all right, game on, this is happening. We're told in the trailer that the consequences of not getting enough sleep are first, disorientation, and you see that. Two, hallucinations, and then three, hysteria. So we see all three of those things represented throughout the film. What's interesting is that you see things through the character's perspective, but as they begin to move through those three phases and the consequences, we wonder if what we're seeing is actually really happening or if we're actually seeing the hallucinations themselves. For example, there's a scene where the people are driving by a bunch of naked people on the side of the road. So were they hallucinating that, or are all the naked people on the side of the road having hallucinations? And so there is some nudity. There are some visuals and camera angles that I thought were pretty creative. And I definitely felt the tension and the sense of urgency, knowing that you can only really survive so many days without sleep until you totally go bonkers, right? And even die. There are also some interesting action sequences that I thought were well done. So as a little side note, if you have trouble sleeping, a friend of mine invented an Alexa skill that can actually, oh, she just heard me say her name. That she's sitting right next to me. Anyway, it can help you. And the name of that skill is called guided sleep. So I've got a link down below if you want to check that out. And in case you haven't already discovered my Alexa skill, yeah, see, she heard me again. It's actually called Daily Inspiration. She keeps beeping. Daily Inspirational Quote with Trina Boice. So subscribe. It's super short, 3 minutes or less every day. I share an inspirational quote, obviously, a little story to illustrate the point, and some information about the person who said the quote. And that's it. So if you need a little daily dose of inspiration, now you know where you can get it. And of course, it's free. It's also available on a bunch of podcast platforms, in addition to the Amazon Echo advice. So again, click down below and there's a link and you can find your favorite podcast platform and then sign up or subscribe to it there. All right. So I also thought the movie was good because it introduced some emergency preparedness tips that we all need to know. And so I wanted to tell you a few of them that I thought were especially important and that are illustrated in the movie. First of all, have an emergency supply of cash on hand. So in the movie, the effects of this global event are kind of like an EMP where all electronics go out. So you're not going to be able to go to an ATM and get cash or pump gas even, which is run through electronics, and buy food or anything. And so have a little stash of cash. Next is learn how to do basic first aid on yourself and others. So when this event happens, that's when they get in this car crash and they go to the hospital, but the hospitals are packed. And so they need to do some self-care. So brush up on your first aid. Also, here's a tip, get a bicycle. A lot of people don't ride bikes anymore, or they think that they're just for kids or maybe mountain biking. But if your car didn't work and you needed to get somewhere, you probably should have a bike and a paper map. We're not going to have our cell phones and our navigations to use. So learn how to read a map and have one. I actually have one in my car just in case, for whatever reason, my cell phone died or whatever, I would still be able to find myself around. Those are just a few. And by the way, I created an online course all about emergency preparedness, and you can save 50% off when you use promo code half off on my website, lifelonglearningeducation.com. So there are a couple of plugs for an online course and my podcast. All right, back to the movie. There were some things I didn't like. First of all, I'm always annoyed by Hollywood's understanding and portrayal of Christians. They're always portrayed as complete wackadoos. And I hate that. There are some wonderful, good Christian people. I happen to be Christian, which is why it drives me nuts. So at one point, one of the Christian ladies who realizes that the daughter Hannah is special says, let's sacrifice her. And I'm like, really? That's the go-to thing? Christians are not going to immediately start sacrificing people. Come on, Hollywood. Some of the musical score is a little heavy-handed, letting you know this is a dramatic moment or this is a touching moment. So there's that. And I didn't even recognize Jennifer Jason Leigh. I hadn't seen her in a long time, so it was good to see her in something. That's not a negative thing, actually. I don't know why I included it in the things I didn't like. The ending is really interesting, although I've heard some people and some reviewers say that they hated it and they felt frustrated by it. So I would love to know what you think of the ending. Comment down below. And Act 1 is really intriguing. It grabs your attention, but then Act 2 and Act 3 are kind of more of the same without adding anything really new or unique or really spiraling things up. It's just kind of at the same pace. So it's not easy to necessarily identify a climax and a resolution because the whole movie is kind of climactic, you know? We don't really get information about why Noah, the teenage son, hates his mother, other than he's a typical teenager frustrated by his mom's imperfections. Now, granted, she has a drug problem and was dealing drugs and all of that. So it's not without reason, but he just has a really hard time forgiving her. Some viewers who don't like the film complain that it doesn't explain that event, but it actually does. It says that there's a solar flare, which actually could happen, that is similar to an EMP that knocks out the electronics, as well as messes with people's brains. Now, I don't know if an EMP could do that, but I was happy to suspend my disbelief and go along with it. I didn't get all upset about that. And then we don't get a lot of character development or background on the characters. They are just thrust into this situation and they've got to survive. And a few little things come up, but not as much as you want, so that you really care and feel invested in these characters. I mean, other than, you know, they're cute kids and a single mom who's trying to pull it all together. Let me give you, speaking of mom, some tips for parents. Some people in the movie are seen to buy and sell drugs. There's some bloody murder. There's profanity, including F-bombs. And one of the young children says an F-bomb, and I hate that. You see dead, bloodied bodies several times. There's violence. Kids talk about doing it. And I just felt like that was inappropriate and not necessary. You see a bunch of naked people, like I mentioned before. A guy flips the bird, and you see a monkey's head open with its brains. You know, I mean, that's obviously a prosthetic, or an animatronic or something. But anyway, just giving you the heads up. The themes that are illustrated in the movie are mental acuity, sleep, wellness and health, emergency preparedness, hope, life, family, loyalty, courage, and tenacity. All right, so I always write down funny lines and interesting lines so that I can give you flavor of what the movie's all about. And when I look back at my notes, I hadn't written any funny lines because this is really a serious drama. But I'll share one of the interesting lines with you, and I have all of them written down on my movie review at moviereviewmom.com. So there's one line that I thought was interesting, spoken by the pastor, played by Barry Pepper, and he says, "Maybe we're meant to be awake because you need to be woke to see how the world really is." And I thought that it was interesting that they used the word woke, because everything in American culture right now is woke. And we're starting to see some problems with making everything so woke. Yes, we need to be aware of what's going on, but I think that this woke culture has crossed the line. But I don't want to get into all of the politics of that. All right, so ultimately, the movie review mom grade that I'm giving this is a C. Let me give you a couple of recommendations for other movies that you might like better or equally. I don't know. The first one that immediately came to my mind is called The Happening with Mark Wahlberg. And there's this event and all these weird things happen. I think it's less realistic by far than this one, but I like Mark Wahlberg. So I just thought I'd let you know about that one. And then another one, of course, is A Quiet Place, where there's an event and a family has to survive all the craziness that ensues. And if you haven't seen the second A Quiet Place, I loved it just as much as the first. Some people are saying they like it even more than the first. So you definitely want to check that one out. Okay, that's it for my review. I hope if you watch this movie that you do enjoy it. And if nothing else, that it spurs you to put together an emergency preparedness backpack. Leave one in your car, leave one in your garage or your house, and be prepared. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but you never know. All right, I will catch you in my next movie review. Bye for now.